At 50 years old, I found myself driving through sheets of icy rain in a battered Honda Civic that coughed every time I pressed the gas. The smell of pizza and damp cardboard filled the car, mixing with the faint sound of the local radio I kept on just to feel less alone. The GPS said the next address was 10 minutes away, 1475, Maple Ridge Drive, one of those neighborhoods where the houses looked like they came straight out of a luxury home magazine. It was my 5th delivery of the night, and my shoulders ached from a double shift. My old Tony's pizza jacket did little to keep the cold out. Each drop of rain stung like a reminder of what my life had become. I used to wear pressed shirts and shake hands in boardrooms. Now I was delivering large pepperoni pizzas for tips that barely covered gas. When I finally pulled up to the house, I saw this grand colonial mansion with columns so tall they seemed to scrape the sky. The lights inside glowed warm, like a world I no longer belonged to. I grabbed the pizza bag, pulled my jacket tighter, and jogged through the downpour. The door opened before I could even knock. An old man stood there, silver hair, pale skin, and a look in his eyes that froze me mid-step. His hand trembled against the doorframe as he whispered, "Dear Lord." For a second, I thought maybe he was having a stroke. His face drained of color, his lips trembling. "Sir, are you all right?" I said, instinctively stepping forward. But then he said something that made my pulse stop. "You're James Lawson's boy, aren't you?" The name hit me like a wave I wasn't ready for. My father's name. A name I hadn't heard spoken aloud in decades. I blinked through the rain. "I'm sorry, do I know you?" He stared harder, his breathing uneven. "Those eyes," he whispered. "That jawline. You look exactly like him when he was young." His voice cracked. "I've been searching for you for 30 years, Ethan." My throat went dry. "How do you know my name?" I asked quietly. Nobody ever talked about my father. He died when I was 2. And my mother, the only person who could have told me more, took most of his story to her grave 3 years ago. The man stepped closer, rain misting through the doorway onto his wool sweater. "Because your father and I were business partners," he said. "We started a real estate company together in 1982. Your father owned half. Before I tell you my complete story, subscribe and comment where you're watching from. I'd love to know how far this story travels." He reached out, gripping my arm with surprising strength for someone who looked close to 80. "Please," he said softly. "Come inside. What I'm about to show you will change everything." I hesitated. My phone buzzed with a delivery notification. 3 more orders were already getting cold in the car. I should have walked away. But there was something in his tone, something like desperation mixed with relief, like he'd just stumbled onto a ghost he'd spent his life chasing. Against every instinct, I followed him inside. The warmth hit me first, the smell of cedar, old paper, and something faintly sweet, like pipe tobacco. His living room looked like time had stopped 30 years ago. Framed photographs lined the walls, young men in construction helmets, newspaper clippings about city developments, handwritten letters pinned inside glass frames. The man, Walter Deacon, as I'd later learn, moved slowly to a wall covered in black and white photos. His fingers brushed over one, a faded picture of 2 young men standing at a construction site. Both wore hard hats and wide, hopeful smiles. He handed it to me with trembling hands. "That's your father and me," he said, his voice fragile. "The day we signed the papers for Deacon Lawson Developments." My breath caught. The younger man in the photo looked so much like me it felt impossible. The same dark hair, same chin, even the same small scar near the eyebrow, one I'd always thought came from a childhood fall. "He never told my mother any of this," I murmured, staring at the photo. Walter gave a sad smile. "Because we thought we'd failed. The city rejected our development permit 6 times. The property we bought was swampland, worthless. We'd put everything into it, your father even mortgaged his house." He paused, voice breaking. 2 months later, he died in that car accident, thinking he'd lost it all. I looked around the room, dozens of binders labeled with dates, places, and company names. "What happened to the company?" I asked. He walked to a massive wooden desk and opened a drawer filled with manila folders. "That's the thing, son," he said softly. 6 months after your father passed, everything changed. The city reversed their decision. That swampland we bought? It became the Riverbend Technology District. And every square foot skyrocketed in value. He opened a folder and placed a stack of papers on the desk. Blueprints, contracts, bank statements, each one marked with both their signatures. "I've been collecting your father's share of the profits for 30 years, he continued. "Searching for you and your mother. She disappeared after his death, changed her name, moved away, and no one could find her. But the money kept coming. The properties kept expanding. I couldn't touch your father's portion, so I placed it in trust." He turned one last page. "Every rent check, every dividend, I kept them all. For you. Then he handed me a bank statement. The number at the bottom made my vision swim. I looked up, heart pounding. This can't be right. He nodded slowly. It's real. The current valuation of your father's holdings, your inheritance, is worth more than $800 million. For a moment, everything went silent. The rain tapping against the window faded, the world outside blurred. My knees gave out and I collapsed onto his rug, the pizza bag slipping from my hands. Walter reached out to steady me, but I was too lost in the sound of my own heartbeat. $800 million. The man who died thinking he'd left nothing behind, had built an empire. And I, the guy who couldn't even keep a steady job anymore, was his heir. I didn't know it then, but that night would mark the end of my life as I knew it. And the beginning of a reckoning that would change everything. 6 months before that night in the rain, I thought I had my life figured out. After 23 years climbing my way up from warehouse clerk to senior logistics manager at Halden Industries, I finally had stability, a modest home, 2 incredible kids, and a career I was proud of. My corner office overlooked the Cleveland skyline, and every time I turned my chair to face that view, it reminded me of how far I'd come from the nights my mom used to count coins just to keep the lights on. My team respected me. They called me Mr. Lawson even when I told them not to. 3 times I'd been named Manager of the Year, and for the first time in decades, I felt enough. The divorce from Melissa, my ex-wife, had been final for 8 years. And honestly, I thought I was past it. She was ambitious, restless, and never satisfied with what we had. When she left, I told myself that was freedom disguised as heartbreak. My daughter Hannah was finishing nursing school at Ohio State, pulling straight A's while volunteering at a children's hospital. My son Cole, at 31, had just made partner at a downtown law firm, the youngest they'd ever promoted. Every other Sunday, they came home for dinner. We'd sit around the old oak table, laugh about the past, and for a few hours, the world felt right again. Dad, Hannah would say, passing the mashed potatoes, you need to start dating again. You're only 50. That's not old anymore. I'm focused on my work, I'd reply. Besides, after your mother, I think I've had enough excitement for one lifetime. Cole would chuckle. Mom was definitely exciting. Remember when she tried to sell us on that crypto scheme? We laughed about it then, about Melissa's obsession with quick money, her constant hunger for status. Last I'd heard, she was working at a small interior design office in Chicago, still chasing rich clients like dreams she couldn't hold on to. Then came the Halden Industries Gala that June. It was an over-the-top affair, chandeliers, champagne towers, and corporate smiles. The company rented out the Four Seasons ballroom, and for one night a year, everyone pretended the stress of 12-hour workdays didn't exist. I was laughing with my team near the buffet when I heard a voice behind me that turned my blood cold. Ethan Lawson, boomed Victor Halden, our CEO. I want you to meet my fiancé properly. When I turned around, time stopped. Melissa stood there, her hand resting on Victor's arm, wearing a silver gown that probably cost more than my car. For a second, the entire ballroom disappeared. Hello, Ethan, she said with that soft, practiced sweetness that once fooled me into believing she loved me. It's been, 8 years? I forced a polite smile even though my stomach was twisting. Melissa. Congratulations. Victor grinned, oblivious to the tension. Small world, huh? My new fiancé used to be married to my top logistics guy. My coworkers stood frozen, pretending to look at their champagne glasses. Maybe we should have dinner sometime, Melissa said, her tone dripping with mock concern. All of us. Like adults. I'd love to hear how the kids are doing. The way she said, the kids, like she hadn't missed birthdays, graduations, and every moment that mattered, made my jaw clench. But I kept my voice even. They're doing great. Thanks for asking. Then I walked away. Later, my assistant Janet found me outside on the balcony, staring at the city lights. You okay, boss? She asked softly. Yeah, I lied. Just old ghosts. She frowned. That woman looked at you like she was planning something. I didn't realize then how right she was. In the weeks that followed, Melissa started showing up everywhere. Lunch meetings with Victor. Accidental visits to my department. Whispering into Victor's ear during board reviews, always making sure I noticed. At first, I tried to ignore it. I buried myself in work, focusing on projects and deadlines. But something in the air had shifted, the glances, the sudden silence when I walked into meetings, the feeling that eyes followed me everywhere. One night at dinner, Cole said, Dad, you look exhausted. What's going on? Just work stress, I said. Victor's fiancée is my ex-wife. Hannah dropped her fork. Mom? You're kidding. It's fine, I said quickly. I'll handle it professionally. Cole leaned back, his lawyer instincts kicking in. Dad, document everything. I don't trust that woman. Not after what she pulled with your savings. He was right. I just didn't want to believe it. Mom used to warn me about people like Melissa. She'd say, Ethan, you're too trusting, just like your father. You always see the best in people, even when it's not there. She'd raised me alone after Dad's accident, working double shifts as a nurse just to pay my tuition. When she passed 3 years ago, she left me a small box of Dad's things and one handwritten note. The world isn't always fair, but the truth always finds daylight. I didn't understand what that meant, not yet. But soon, I'd learn that truth doesn't just find daylight. Sometimes it burns everything in its path before it shines. It started on a Monday morning that looked like any other. The coffee was still hot on my desk when the call came through. Ethan, HR needs to see you immediately. It was Carol Patterson, our human resources director, a woman whose voice usually sounded calm and clipped, but this time it had an edge that made my stomach twist. The walk from my office to HR felt endless. Every click of my shoes on the marble floor echoed like a countdown. When I entered the room, 2 security guards were already standing by the door. Carol didn't look up right away. She slid a thick folder across the table and said, "There's been a serious allegation of theft." I frowned. "Theft? $2 million in inventory from Warehouse 7, she said flatly. "The digital access logs show your override codes were used for every transaction." "That's impossible," I said. "I haven't even been in Warehouse 7 for months." "The records say otherwise," she replied. 47 separate diversions in the last 90 days. My hands shook as I flipped through the pages. My own digital signature. My access codes. Time stamps, most of them in the middle of the night when I was home asleep. "This is fabricated," I said. "Check the security cameras. You'll see I wasn't there." "The cameras malfunctioned," she said, her tone chillingly neutral. "Backup footage also failed. Mr. Halden wants this handled quietly. If you resign today and sign the non-disclosure, there won't be criminal charges." I stared at her. "Criminal charges? For something I didn't do?" "That's your choice," she said. "But Mr. Halden was hoping to avoid embarrassing your family. Your son just made partner, right? It would be unfortunate if his firm learned his father was under investigation." For a long moment I couldn't breathe. Then I stood, voice low. "I'm not resigning for something I didn't do." "Then you're suspended. Effective immediately." The security guard stepped forward. The walk back through the office, the one I'd helped build, was the longest of my life. 42 people looked up as I passed. Some whispered. Some couldn't even meet my eyes. Janet, my assistant, was crying. I didn't look back. Tuesday, the police came. 6 officers. They tore through my house, confiscated my computers, my phone, even my old files. The neighbors watched from their windows as they led me out in handcuffs. "Dad, what's happening?" Hannah sobbed over the phone from her dorm. "It's a misunderstanding, sweetheart," I said, my voice breaking. "It'll get cleared up soon." But by Wednesday, I knew it wouldn't. Every major logistics company in the tri-state area had received an email from Halden Industries warning them about my integrity issues and an ongoing investigation. My LinkedIn was flooded with people quietly removing connections, distancing themselves. 23 years of trust vanished in 23 hours. That evening, I got a text from Melissa. "Enjoy being nobody, Ethan. You always were too small for the life I wanted." And right below it, "Victor sends his regards." I remember just staring at that message until the letters blurred. I called Cole. "I need a lawyer who isn't afraid of Victor Halden." "Dad, I'll represent you myself." "No," I said firmly. "You just made partner. I won't let them destroy your career too." The lawyer I eventually hired cost $500 an hour. By week 3, my savings were bleeding. By month 2, the bank repossessed the house. When I met with my attorney for what would be the last time, she looked at me with pity. "Ethan, I hate to say this, but they've done this before. Halden's ruined 3 other executives the same way. No one could prove their innocence." "So I just give up?" I asked. "I'm saying you're David fighting Goliath," she said quietly, "except this Goliath owns the slingshots." I sold everything I could, the car, the furniture, my father's old wristwatch. Cole offered to help, but I couldn't take his money. Hannah offered to drop out of school to work full-time. I told her absolutely not. The only place that would hire me without a background check was Tony's Pizza, a mom-and-pop shop where the owner, Tony Morelli, still believed a handshake meant something. "You show up, you work hard, you get paid," he'd said, handing me a red jacket with a grease stain on the sleeve. "I don't care what the papers say." Delivering pizzas at 50 was a special kind of humiliation. My first delivery was to an old coworker. The second was to my former neighbor. The third was to one of Melissa's friends. She recognized me instantly, smirked, and tipped a condescending 20. One night, I stopped at a red light and heard a horn. It was Dennis from accounting, my old colleague. He rolled down his window, eyes full of pity. "Man, I heard what Halden did to you. Everyone knows it's bull, but no one's gonna cross him. He owns half the city." I forced a smile that hurt to hold. "Take care of yourself, Dennis." After that, I stopped trying to fight. Pride became a luxury I couldn't afford. I moved into a one-room studio that smelled like mildew, kept the lights dim to save on the bill, and counted tips every night just to make rent. By December, I thought I'd accepted my fate. The man who used to run logistics for $1 billion company was now counting quarters for gas. That rainy night, the one when I delivered to Walter Deacon, I truly believed life had ended for me. I had no idea that in 10 minutes, a stranger was about to hand me back everything I'd lost. And a chance at justice I never imagined. The sound of the rain against Walter Deacon's windows faded into the background as he slid the last document across his mahogany desk. On the page was a number so large, it didn't feel real. $817,604,000, Walter said, voice steady but eyes glistening. "That's the current value of your father's holdings. Your inheritance." I just stared at it, every digit dancing through my mind like something from a dream I didn't dare believe. "I don't understand," I whispered. "All this time?" Walter nodded slowly. "Your father thought he'd failed. He died thinking he left you nothing. But he didn't just leave you money, Ethan. He left you leverage." He reached into another drawer and pulled out a thick, leather-bound folder. "Here's the part that matters most." He turned to a specific lease agreement and slid it toward me. "Take a look at who signed this one." I leaned closer, and froze. The signature at the bottom read, "Victor Halden, CEO, Halden Industries." My pulse pounded in my ears. "You're telling me Halden Industries, the company that fired me, the one that blacklisted me, rents from us?" Walter's lips twitched into a small, satisfied smile. "From you, actually. They've been leasing Lot 47 in the Riverbend Tech District for the past 15 years. Their entire corporate headquarters sits on that property." I sank back into the chair, my mind spinning. The irony hit me like a freight train. The man who destroyed my life, the one who made sure no one would hire me again, had been paying rent to my family's company for over a decade. Walter reached into the file again and pulled out a page with a gold seal. "There's something else you need to see," he said, his voice lowering. "When your father and I built this company, we had one rule, that every tenant should uphold ethical business practices. So we included a clause in every lease." He slid the paper in front of me. The text read clearly, "Any tenant found to have engaged in unethical or fraudulent business conduct shall forfeit all leasing rights upon written notice within 30 days. Walter looked at me. "That clause was your father's idea. He said, if we ever build something worth keeping, let's make sure it belongs to good people." My jaw tightened. "So if Halden Industries is proven to have done what I know they did, then," Walter said quietly, "you have the legal right to evict them. Entirely." For a moment, I didn't say anything. I just stared at the papers, feeling a slow, steady burn rising inside me, the kind that comes after too much pain, too much humiliation. All those nights delivering pizzas. All those years of loyalty, erased with one fabricated accusation. And here it was, justice, sitting right in front of me, wrapped in legal ink and 30 years of patience. I looked at Walter, my voice steady. "Mr. Deacon. I think it's time Victor Halden met his new landlord." He chuckled softly, the kind of laugh that carries both satisfaction and peace. "I already anticipated that," he said. "I contacted a firm this morning, Norwood, Kane & Associates. Their lead attorney, Patricia Norwood, has handled real estate disputes at this level before. She's expecting your call." I couldn't help but smile for the first time in months. "You think my father would be proud of me?" Walter's eyes softened. "He'd be proud that you're still standing. That you didn't let them destroy you. Tommy Lawson always said wealth means nothing if you can't use it for good." That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in my small apartment surrounded by the papers Walter had given me, reading every line under the dim kitchen light. Lease agreements, bank statements, development permits, all of it proof that my life wasn't over. It was restarting. By sunrise, I'd already spoken with Patricia Norwood. Her voice was sharp, confident. "Mr. Lawson," she said, "we've verified everything Walter sent. Legally, you are the rightful heir and 50% owner of Deacon Lawson Developments. Every document checks out. And you hold all the leverage." "How much leverage are we talking?" I asked. "Enough to make a billionaire beg," she said. "Victor Halden's company sits on land that can't be easily relocated. His specialized infrastructure, his data centers, his logistics hub, all tied to that location. If you enforce the morality clause, he'll lose everything within 30 days. I stared at the papers in front of me, and for the first time in months, the shame I'd carried turned into something else. Focus. Purpose. Then we move forward, I said. Patricia smiled. Already done. I've filed notice of ownership transfer and scheduled the lease reviews. Halden's attorneys have been calling nonstop. The next morning, I sat in my old Honda outside Halden Industries headquarters, the same building where I'd once had an office, a nameplate, and a future. The glass tower rose above me, gleaming under the winter sun. I still had Walter's folder on the passenger seat, the proof of who I truly was. My phone buzzed. It was Melissa. Her voice cracked with panic. Ethan, Victor's freaking out. Something about the lease? His lawyers say there's a new owner. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you? I watched as Victor's Bentley pulled into the private lot. Actually, I would, I said calmly. Tell Victor his new landlord wants a meeting in 20 minutes. Conference room A. What are you talking about? You deliver pizzas, Ethan. Not anymore, I said, hanging up. I stepped out of the car, adjusted my tie, the one I'd kept from my old life, and walked through those revolving doors like I'd never left. The receptionist gave me a confused look, but before she could speak, Patricia Norwood and her legal team walked in behind me, 6 attorneys in perfect formation. We're here for the emergency meeting with Mr. Halden, Patricia said firmly. The elevator ride to the 40th floor felt like rising through the years I'd lost, every ding of the floor indicator echoing with a sense of justice climbing closer. When the doors opened, Victor Halden was already waiting, surrounded by 12 of his lawyers. And sitting next to him was Melissa. Her face turned pale when she saw me. I walked to the head of the table, set my folder down, and smiled politely. Good morning, I said. Thank you all for meeting with your new landlord. Victor's expression shifted from irritation to disbelief as Patricia slid a folder across the polished glass table. No joke, Mr. Halden, she said evenly. As of last week, Ethan Lawson is majority owner of Deacon Lawson Developments. Lot 47, your corporate headquarters, is his property. For 3 long seconds, nobody moved. Then Victor slammed a palm against the table. This is impossible. It's in the filings with the Cuyahoga County Recorder's Office, Patricia replied. Your lease expires in 30 days. The morality clause allows termination if credible evidence of unethical conduct exists. I leaned forward, calm but steady. We have plenty of credible evidence. Patricia opened her laptop and began listing names, former employees, affidavits, digital logs, falsified signatures, camera failures that mysteriously matched each accusation Victor ever made. Every word tightened the air in the room. Melissa sat frozen beside him, color draining from her face. You can't prove anything, Victor snapped. I met his eyes. We don't need a conviction. Your own contract says credible evidence. Victor's jaw flexed. So what do you want? I stood. 2 options. I began pacing slowly, the way he used to during board meetings when he wanted everyone to feel small. Option 1, you vacate this property in 30 days. Move your entire operation somewhere else. Good luck finding another 40-story tech-ready space in time. He swallowed hard. And option 2? I stopped behind his chair. You publicly clear my name, pay me $30 million in damages, and sign a new lease at triple your current rate. Oh, and you divorce Melissa. Melissa shot to her feet. Ethan, please. I didn't even look at her. Every month you stay married, rent doubles again. Month 1, $6 million. Month 2, 12. Month 3, 24. How long before your board decides she's not worth it? The silence was razor-sharp. Then Victor exhaled, defeated. You'll ruin me. No, Patricia said. You ruined yourself. We're just signing the paperwork. I gathered my folder. You have 24 hours to decide, Victor. After that, I file eviction. As I reached the door, I paused. By the way, thank you for that text, Melissa. Enjoy being nobody. It kept me motivated. 2 days later, the headline on every local paper read, Billionaire CEO steps down amid ethics scandal. Victor resigned before his board could vote him out. Melissa filed for divorce within a week. She sent text after text, pleading, apologizing, bargaining. I didn't reply. One Friday night, she showed up at Tony's Pizza, drenched from the rain, makeup streaked. Ethan, please, she said. I lost everything. I turned to the counter. Your order will be ready in 15 minutes, ma'am. Is that what you want? An apology? I faced her. No. I wanted the truth. But you were never interested in truth, only in winning. She dropped a handful of bills on the counter and left. It was the last time I saw her. Within months, every falsely accused employee Victor had destroyed received a payout from the restitution fund Patricia helped me establish. One of them, Dennis from accounting, called me in tears. Ethan, you didn't just save yourself, you saved all of us. Walter became the grandfather I never had. We spent evenings going through my father's old papers, learning who he really was. Tommy Lawson used to say, Walter told me one sunset, wealth without purpose is just paper, wealth with purpose can change the world. So we changed it. Half the Riverbend district became affordable housing for displaced workers. We opened the Thomas Lawson Foundation with a $100 million endowment to help families crushed by corporate retaliation. Hannah graduated debt-free and now runs the community health clinic we built downtown. Dad, she said at the ribbon cutting, you showed me that falling down doesn't define you, getting up does. Cole opened his own law firm defending employees who'd been silenced. His first case, a janitor accused of theft, ended in victory. The man's daughter mailed me a hand-drawn thank you card that still sits on my desk. One evening, I stood in my father's old office, now mine. The walls still smelled faintly of cedar and history. Walter rested a hand on my shoulder. He'd be proud, Ethan. You didn't just reclaim his fortune, you restored his dream. I looked at the framed photo of two young men in hard hats standing on worthless swampland. My father had died believing he'd failed. He never knew that his belief in ethics would one day become the weapon that brought justice. The best revenge wasn't money, or power, or watching Victor's empire collapse. It was the message I sent Melissa on what would have been her first anniversary with him. A photo of me handing apartment keys to a single mother, another victim of corporate cruelty, moving into her new home. This is what being somebody looks like. She never responded. She didn't need to. Because I finally understood, sometimes being nobody is the universe's way of preparing you to become somebody who matters. And sometimes, the ground that once buried you, is the same ground that lifts you up. My father left me more than a fortune. He left me purpose. And that's worth more than $800 million could ever buy. If this story moved you, if you've ever given everything for someone who broke you, remember, your story isn't over. There are people fighting for you, even when you think no one is. Sometimes they wear a suit and carry evidence. Sometimes they're your father, your brother, or your future self who refuses to give up. If this story reminded you that strength is born in the wreckage, subscribe, share it, and comment where you're watching from.